Feels good to be back. Got this new jacket. Hope you enjoy the looks of this. Got a good deal on it. Well, hey, at the movies with film. Back at you again. Didn't think I would leave you for long, did you? Gosh, I miss it when I'm not with you guys. Got my familiar stuff, my bottle of Mothra. It's good. It's good. It really is refreshing. You know, you got something to wash out that sort of that grime from driving. Okay, Mothra will do the trick. Okay, Film Brown here. Going to be talking at you again just for a little while. I'm not gonna weigh you down with a lot of data that's going to bore you. And I hope that I'm not boring you with some of this stuff. What are we watching today? Oh, Vampyr. This, I think you're going to like. 1932. This is the first sound film by one of the great filmmakers from the European tradition, Carl Theodor Dreyer. You might know him better for The Passion of Joan of Arc, or films like Ordette and so on. A man who made a lot of films that dealt with spiritual notions of manhood and of the humankind. Gertrude is another one, or Day of Wrath, dealing with witchcraft. Seemed to be interested in the questioning of what is good and what is evil. Now, Vampyr is another vampire story. We've seen quite a few of those these days on our times together. It is a film that stars a guy named Julian West. He was actually the producer of this film as well. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, it was sort of a deal that he would help finance this film if he could star in it. He was only in a few films. He plays a guy named David Gray, who comes to this strange household that seems to be plagued by weird happenings. One of the beauties of this film is the odd use of camera. The camera in this film is very mobile. And I love films that have a lot of camera movement, but this is very mobile framing. The camera, even for this early sound period, used the camera quite fluidly, moving across sets, looking across the landscape, getting views of things in movement. The sound also is quite interestingly used. As a matter of fact, the version that we have is in multiple languages. And it also is subtitled, not necessarily all of the time. At times, there are times where there'll be no subtitles. You really don't need the subtitles to understand this film. Don't get too frustrated if they're talking and you're not seeing the subtitles to understand what they're saying. Go with the beauty and the look. This is a film that really captures the crepuscular sense of that period of just between nighttime and daytime, the twilight, when the light is just right, that time that some people call fairy time. It also is a film, you think of certain films that capture a sense of what a nightmare is like, or what a dream is like. And on my one hand, I can count just a few. Andalusian Dog by Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali, Stan Brackage's Dog Star Man and some of his closed-eye loop films, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this one, Vampyr, really seem to capture well a sense of the nightmare, of being trapped inside of that. You've all had these dreams where you're sort of trapped inside of something and you want to get out. You know it's a dream, you're hoping it's a dream, and you're telling yourself to wake up, but you can't. There is some fantastic imagery in here where the Julian West character, the David Gray fella, at one point thinks that he's dead, and he's actually nailed up inside of a coffin, and we see through his eyes the vampire that visits him. We see the nails driven into his coffin. We see the coffin being carried away, and we see through his eyes, through the glass of the door, on the coffin lid, the trees passing by and the jiggling. Reminds you a bit of the terrible Dr. Hitchcock, where also when Barbara Steele gets trapped inside of the coffin and is screaming to get out, captures that sense of claustrophobia. Two people who worked on this film, who one looking backwards in time and one looking forward in time, have some importance. Rudolf Maté was the cameraman on this film. Rudolf Maté would later become a director in its own right later on in the United States. Herman Baum was the set designer for this film, and you might remember him from a film called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. He worked in a lot of the German Expressionist films from 1919 on into the Expressionist period, doing some of the more elegant and disturbing sets that the German Expressionist movement was known for. Vampyr. The look of this film has a little bit of a graininess. It's intentional to a certain extent. Capture that, the strange oniric world, the world of horror. This is a film of in-betweenness, a liminal film, a film of transition, a time between what is day and what is night, in between, like the moments between life and death. That moment in between. Death, that moment of total negation, life, affirmation, what's in between. Roll 'em, Smokey.